So this is a green table talk, but today the green table is being used by other teams. So we're just gonna have a walk and talk instead of the green table. Yeah, Erica? So I would consider Erica a language artist. Would you consider that's a fair designation? Fair enough. So let's talk about how to build trust. I think building trust is a pretty important step in any sales negotiation process, right? So Erica, what would you recommend is the first step to building trust? I'll let you hold the camera.
It depends on the client mostly, but to have a common background, that's something that usually easiest. And then the other one is to ask questions and listen, because you need to trigger them to talk right before listening.
Correct.
And then if it shows that they are being heard by you, then that will make them trust you more, and then they will tell you more.
Correct. So what we've done here is we've established essentially the first two milestones, which is first, I think it's about, well, you need to introduce yourself in order to find that there's common background.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, after you introduce self-introduction, you identify who they are.
Correct.
And you introduce yourself,
Correct.
who you are to them, then you start talking.
Correct. So would you say that even in the introduction, there are some opportunities to do pattern matching?
I think this opportunity is everywhere since the beginning.
Which makes the kind of the 5 stages a really interesting, almost recursive situation, because at any given point, you might find yourself like doing an introduction, but you're trying to look for patterns. You're looking for common ground. You're looking for things that you can relate to with the client, right? Great. So how do we then go to the next stage? Now that we've introduced ourselves, we're building trust, what do you see as, besides listening, how do you get, let's say, a talkative client to talk more?
Oh, that's actually a pretty hard question. Clients to talk. It depends on the client again. There are some that, I mean, if they're not interested in the first place and don't need you at all, totally cannot relate to you, then it might be a bit challenging. You know, sometimes I think in this context, for example, we invite people to our event, Round Table Talk, and then it's actually pretty fun. You can see people how they interact to each other every time, different guests, different people, and then there are just times where the guests, no matter how hard you're trying to talk to them, they just answer yes or no, and then that's the end. So it's just like ruining your mental, right? But there are times where you give your side of story, and then they start to tell their side of story, and then. So
what we generally want to evoke is we want to evoke reciprocation. We share something, they share something, we share something, they share something. I would call that technique sort of like fishing for patterns. So sometimes I find if a client isn't speaking, I will just start kind of putting out a lot of information I think that they might connect with, right? I'll say, hey, I have kids. If I think that they might have kids and they're like this, and you start sort of sharing your vulnerabilities, and maybe you share some of your sort of secrets. And I think ultimately what you're doing is, if the client doesn't want to speak much, it's probably because they don't trust you.
Oh.
And it's not an offense, it's not personal. I mean, we probably should be calibrated in who we trust. I mean, we are salespeople after all, dirty salespeople.
But I think what I just remember that I just recall that I believe many things that I often do to make them start talking when I get a little bit of their background or experience or what they currently at right now. I tell them the third party story. So I tell them my previous client story that experienced the same thing or has the same background as them. So like, they are also from Netherlands, let's say, for example, and then this is also their first investment. So I tell this, I tell them the background of my other clients and what they do and what's next, and then they get a good reference, and then you start to talk more.
That's pretty funny. Third party stories are a way of giving yourself your own review, which ultimately is, I think, where we're going to miss Erica here. But having third-party stories actually takes quite a lot of experience and time to build, and they need to be authentic, and I think they need to be factual, right? Yeah. But it's kind of, is it awkward making a third-party story in the very beginning? Because it feels like a self-review, right?
No, I don't recall I'm being awkward telling stories. I just came naturally, like, oh, this person exactly matched with my other clients at this time. And then it's just like, I mean, I think you need to have the database in the back of your head about most of your clients, and then this person will relate to this story and then this experience, these solutions. So
Perfect. Now, if we were to classify that into one of the 5 stages of the sales cycle, what stage would you classify this particular behavior as?
I'm afraid I will, miss this.
So we'll just edit it out. Or not. We'll just leave it in. Because Erica's kind of funny when she's genuine. Actually, she's always genuine.
Is that, am I?
Say it.
So it's probably between the discovery and pattern matching. So we're trying to match the puzzle, whichever it is to them, right? And then, if it's matched, then that's great. If it's not, then try again.
Correct. I think being able to tell a good third-party story is an excellent example of pattern matching. I think it's a very strong pattern matching of matching the situation in aggregate to another situation, and being able to then also tell the end and conclusion of that story, I think leads to a lot of successful building trust, because nobody wants to feel like they're the first for some reason. Nobody wants to be like, oh, am I the only person here? So this is why I think there's like a lot of important, we call heroes, I think in our story here, like the Buyetis, like the Patmades. They become really good pattern matches because you can explain that, and then this successful thing happened to this person who was in a similar situation. But can we do pattern matching correctly if we don't do discovery?
For sure, no, because
It won't be genuine.
It's just like randomly you just trying your best, but not correctly.
Straws. Are you like this? We're not like Australians at all. We're from New Zealand.
Exactly. I think once or twice that happens and the client's just like not impressed because that's
Did not resonate. But I think to kind of escape the methodology and to go into kind of a mindset, I think this is why sales needs courage, because you need to try and kind of get ready for some deadpan moments. Like this water truck. Hi, water truck. I'm not a big fan of water trucks, but I think you need to have some of your jokes fall flat, because otherwise you don't tell jokes and then you don't ever learn where comedy is. So that's good. Tell me more about how you close deals. What is the art of closing deals?
Oh, I don't know.
What's the art of closing deals? Like, how do you get the deal to finalize? Is it self-finalize, or do you have to?
No, for sure.
Funny enough.
Because especially in what we're doing here, most people do research way ahead of time,
Good.
right?
We want that.
Like before even they have the villa.
Good.
Or even when they just started building. So they don't have the urgency to, of course, sign with you guys.
Right.
So it's always the follow-ups, and also let them know why they need to sign sooner, because if there is no urgency, then they don't feel like they need to do it now. And
Correct.
it's also such a commitment, because you're signing something that that is clause, it's binding you. So
Right.
it's actually not significantly different for them, right? Whether this month or next month, because they realize just finished 5 months in the next 5 months. So it's not that significant. So instead of they are committing to something, they just like probably later, I'm not sure if there is something, small things that I missed.
Correct. And so I think this is where it becomes an art again. So this is where the storytelling part comes in, and check out the next episode to understand more about that.